Hey guys, welcome to Lashes to Luxuries podcast number 2. I have with me Nashville makeup artist Christin Zito. She is magic in the music industry and also gets her hands into other stuff. And she's a mommy to rescued min pins, Sherlock and Watson, and does a lot of really cool stuff in her free time. So you're gonna learn a lot from her. Hey, Christin.
Hey, everybody.
Okay, Kristen, so just tell me like how you got started in this industry. What brought you into makeup?
I have a unique story when it comes to that, actually. I had a background where I was in full-time music for about 8.5 years and was mildly successful at that. Was touring with my own band and stuff like that, doing clubs, churches, all kinds of different things, and then moved to Nashville, became a hired gun, which is where I went out on the road with different people and played electric and acoustic guitar for people and sang backup on tour. And during that whole process, I was always giving my band members and then even the artists I was out with makeovers and was kind of known. I would get really upset as an artist because an article would get written up about me and I would be like, yay, they're going to talk about my album, and then they would talk about my hair and makeup. And so it was kind of always a part of me, but it was never something I thought of because I never believed in having a plan B. And so I went through a personal crisis time in my life in my early 20s, and it was a really hard time, but it was because of that time that I was kind of put at a point where I had to make a decision to change my life. And so my dad really encouraged me to look into hair and makeup, and I was like, oh, I would never do that. Come on, please. I don't want to work in a salon, whatever. And then I started researching it and found out that there was freelance hair and makeup where you could do shoots and all this kind of thing, which is where I was like, wow, when I was in the industry getting my makeup done for shoots, I hated it. Like, I always hated my makeup. So I was like, there's definitely a need for that in Nashville. And so I came back to Nashville and pretty much on a certain level faked it until I made it. I definitely had some amazing mentors and some amazing people that were part of different companies high up in the company that would, give me product and teach me about different things and, teach me how to cut hair and all kinds of different things that were just invaluable for me. But for the most part, I just called up all of my contacts I already had from the music industry and was like, hey, guess what? I'm a professional hair and makeup artist now.
Right.
And I'll never forget, I started pretty much doing like Christian music, hair and makeup and stuff, because that was where a lot of my connections were. And my very first shoot I did, I was nervous, but I was like, I've got this. But I had a little baby pink caboodle that was like this size that had like my makeup kit in it.
Yeah,
And,
I had a caboodle at one point.
yeah, and I was like, yeah. I'm going and I'm doing this, and then I pulled up at the thing and the director had assured me that, I wasn't doing hair, and I'd never really done hair at that point. And so I was like, oh my gosh, because this guy pulls off his beanie and he's got like the worst haircut of all time, and he's like, what you gonna do with my hair? And I'm like, and we're in Atlanta, and I'm like, can I borrow a car? And I went to Kmart and bought some scissors and and just hair product and just made it work. And I felt like, that's kind of how the beginning of everything started, was like you're just thrown into the middle of it. And honestly, I feel like when I run across a lot of artists, there is definitely a need for education, and I'm always trying to continue my education now, but I think like when I run across people that on a certain level were a lot of self-taught as well, I think that there's kind of an interesting quality to their art. I think that it's out of the box. They're able to do something that is out of the just structure that you're taught in school. And so I'm thankful for the background that I have, that I wasn't just all school all the time, and I think learning on set is probably the most valuable thing that you can do as an artist.
Mm-hmm. For sure. You're totally untainted by the rules that they place on you when you go to a structured, like, course setting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I think even like the thing I noticed the most is, now I've had training with hair cutting, but in the beginning I obviously didn't.
Right.
And oh, it's embarrassing looking back at some of that. But I look at some of my assistants now. They're more salon trained, and so like when they come out with me, even styling hair, curling hair, those basic things. Sometimes I'm like, now I know in the salon you want it to look like this. This is a photo shoot, so we want to do the opposite. And
Right.
it's kind of a mental, just like, oh my gosh, like I don't get it. And it takes a few times of like seeing it and saying like messy sometimes can be good, but controlled messy and things like that. So I like it. I like being, self-taught. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, for sure. You should be. It says something, I think, when you can say like, I figured this out. Like this was all me. Like of course the help from other people and the guidance from other people, but that all in all, you just kind of made it work.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that phrase, fake it till you make it, on a certain level is so important when you're a freelancer. I mean, you have to have the confidence, but at the same time be teachable.
Right.
And, it's really hard when you start out as a freelancer. You've got to start somewhere. And I think, Amy, like you and I were talking about earlier, it's like I think a lot of people look at, where we might be in our career and think, oh man, like they're living the life or whatever. And I mean, both of us had the time, I'm sure, where, I mean, there was a month where I literally bought a bag of carrots, baby carrots, and I forget what it was, like hummus or something like that, and ate off of that for a month because I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
But it was because I was putting all my money back into my kit, and it was important to me. And you make sacrifices and you do whatever you have to do to get where you want to be.
Yep, absolutely. Mine was noodles with butter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I ate that often.
Well, you probably had the metabolism where you could get away with that. I knew I couldn't. So for me, it was carrots. I thought, oh, that's probably the best option for me.
Well, you definitely had a more nutritional poor folks meal than I did, but we made it. Now we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's
I would just go on dates for the free meal,
I know. Exactly.
It totally worked.
It definitely works. Hey, you do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and then I would totally get like a doggy bag and take it home, and I'm like, yeah, I probably look like that person right now that's taking home half my meal, but I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So,
Tomorrow.
yeah, I've got to buy a lipstick.
Priorities, folks. Priorities.
Yeah.
So tell me like what your days look like now. So what is kind of your work comprised of?
So I'm really loving how my job is right now. I think when you start out, you have to do a lot of makeup work that is not necessarily what you want to specialize in. For me, like I know a lot of people, including you, love doing weddings. It's not my forte. So like I started off doing weddings, and then as soon as I could get out, I got out. And it just wasn't my thing. Too much drama, and I, for some reason, was drawing a lot of dramatic brides. I have some crazy stories. But, now it's like really evened out to where it's a sweet spot, and I'm really, really loving every job that I get. And it obviously depends on who you're working with. But now I'm doing mainly, not like 90%, sometimes 85% music industry, working with, Christian music, country music, pop music, pretty much anything in music related, indie, doing album covers, photo shoots, any kind of press or red carpet, that kind of stuff. And then you've got your misc, type of shoots too, like commercials, like I did a chicken commercial and, like a carpet ad and, a fitness, I think 3 days ago, I did a salsa DVD. I mean, just really random stuff, but I love it.
Nice. Are you getting your work through an agent? Like, is that how you're making your bookings? Are you with an agency?
Well, actually, it's interesting that you asked me that. I'm in my 8th year right now doing this full time, and I've really taken a lot of pride in being independent. and being self-represented. I've had options in the past, and it just wasn't the right fit for me. I think it's really hard in Nashville because there's not a lot of amazing agents, and so there's really only a couple of options, and it just wasn't the right fit. And so I've really loved having the independence of doing my own thing, and have been really blessed to build relationships and have connections to make it on my own without an agent up until now. And it's interesting because I ended up working with this woman that's amazing. Her name's Jan Cook, and she and I have worked together for like 8 or 9 years. And she just has known me from the beginning and has seen the progression of my work. And she actually only reps photographers, and she's going to launch a new part of her agency just for me to rep hair and makeup. Yeah, so I'm really excited, and I couldn't be more excited about the potential of the partnership that we're going to have, and what it's going to bring, and the amount of stress it's going to take off of my shoulders as well. My least favorite part about our job is talking money with people and invoicing. I feel like you're friends with everybody that books you, and then you have to like talk money, and it's literally the worst thing. So I'm really excited to have somebody do that for me.
Sure, for sure.
So we're announcing that to everybody April 1st, but you get the inside scoop.
Woohoo! Well, congratulations on that. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Do you do any brand representation?
What is that?
Do you do any brand representation? Like, are you with any particular makeup line or tied in? Yeah.
About a year, I guess it was a year, maybe a year and a half now. I did a few commercials for L'Oreal Paris, and really hit it off with several of their key people, and so they connected me with some other people at the brand. And so for I guess a year and a half now, it has to be, I've been on one of their programs to where I get any products I want for free, which is amazing. So yeah, so I've been really blessed to have a lot of L'Oreal Paris in my kit. And it's ironic because I think a lot of people, I have all this luxury brand stuff in my kit, and then they're like, why are you using L'Oreal Paris on me, And I'm like, no, it's actually amazing, and it's given me the opportunity to really dig through all of their stuff and find some things that I'm super impressed by, that I would have never thought would have come from, a drugstore product. And I'm a fan of drugstore stuff and finding stuff that's cheap that you can make.
Yeah.
So that's been amazing. And I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a rep for them or anything like that. I don't get paid. I just get free products.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I feel like every brand has its little perks, like certain brands have certain things that are really fantastic, and the brand itself might be overlooked, but they've got this thing that is just magic, so it's good that you get to dig around and all that and play with it.
For sure. And I mean, there's obviously brands all the time that are sending us free stuff, for different shoots, and some of those for me have been MAC or Makeup Forever. I think MAC is really good about sending stuff for anything music related. But I mean, I just love anytime I get anything free. I'm like, it doesn't even matter what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. How are you, when a brand does send you something, is that something that you have pursued, or like how do you make connections with that brand to get the freebies?
So it's really funny you ask that, because I have people ask me that all the time, and the answer is the most unbelievably simple answer. You write and you ask them for it.
Yeah.
Besides the L'Oreal thing, I think that's like invite only, like to this like thing that it's an app basically that you're on. But I think every other brand, you just get in touch with their A&R person, the person that handles, creative and the artists and all that stuff. And a lot of times they require you to send certain, things to state what you need it for, or to prove that it was in a magazine, or all kinds of different stuff like that. So some companies really have a lockdown on it. But I was shocked, honestly, with Mac. I got an email from another artist that I'm friends with, and wrote the lady and thought, oh man, I just don't even know. And I was doing this really big shoot. And then she wrote back, she says, that's great. Just send me a list of 20 products that you want, and I'll get them to you tomorrow. And I was like, what? Really?
Okay.
So, yeah, it shocked me the first time I did it. I was like, wow, that was really easy. And so I think, once you're at a certain point, people like see your portfolio and stuff, like, and you're doing something that's worth them having their product showcased in, they'll definitely send you stuff. You just have to ask for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So besides eating lots of carrots and hummus, what was the biggest struggle for you in the beginning?
I think for me, it was in the very beginning. I mean, it's always a struggle of trying to figure out a few things, trying to figure out, who you need to know to do shoots. I think that's really hard. Making relationships, but not stealing relationships from other artists. It's kind of a really hard balance, which I think the key is being friends with people. I really do. People want to hire somebody that they work with. They want to hire someone that they're friends with.
Yeah.
And, and just like you want to hang out with your friend when you're working out too. So I think like that's key. And then the other thing for me was like, I really had no idea how much to charge. I really didn't. And I would ask artists and they would literally be like really evasive with it. I would have no idea what was going on. And so I think that was definitely really difficult. And then the other parts would just be figuring out what products I needed to have in my kit. I think that's always something that you're evolving. You're trying to, make sure that you have the best of the best. Or like starting out, I was like, what's the best foundation to get? That's going to be my one foundation, and invest in it, or I would spend a lot of money on buying, a cheap brand that I won't name, thinking, oh, this is really great, it's really cheap, and I can just buy a lot for my kit, and then finding out that I kind of wasted my money on half of it, and I could have spent that money and gotten a really great set of eyeshadows that would have lasted me. I mean, I still have eyeshadows from when I started.
Yeah.
And if I had known that then, I would have probably had a different kit by now.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. So going back to figuring out your rate being a difficult thing, how did you figure? I mean, you asked people, but they weren't really giving you clear answers. So how did you navigate that process? Especially because it is kind of awkward to talk about with the people that are booking you sometimes if you have a relationship with them.
I think I really was just guessing in the beginning, and I really didn't know what to do. And I knew it needed to be at least $150. Honestly, that's what I was like. That seems like it would be, more than that. But I honestly had no clue. And so I started just asking people instead of, because they always ask, what's your budget? And so then I would, like, what's your rate or whatever? And then I would turn that around and be like, well, I'm willing to work with your budget. You just let me know what you have. And then I started finding out people were willing to pay me $300 or $500 or whatever, and I was like, holy crap, like it's a lot more than I thought. And yeah, so it took me a while to kind of like figure that out, and then figure out what clients had more money and what clients didn't, and I think it's like, Christian industry has a lot less than country industry and those kind of things. So I think that it's always a process, you never quite know if you're right on. And I think honestly, I feel good about it now. And now that I signed with an agent, it's interesting because now I've been able to actually find out how much the other artists are getting paid and then be able to go, oh, okay, then, I can compare this. And I honestly had no confirmation of that until recently. And I'm 8 years in, it's like people keep a tight lid on that stuff, But, I mean, you and I have talked about before, I think I'm very passionate about wanting to make sure that young artists in our industry are charging enough for what they're worth. And it's definitely a soapbox that I can get on. That, I mean, I would love it if, if somebody's starting out and, they're watching us and they're like, I'm the same boat. I don't know how much to charge, for where I am. I would love it if they wrote one of us and asked, and we could help them, because I feel like I wish somebody had done that for me, and I think a lot of times young artists are starting out and they really have no idea, so they're doing things for $150 or $200 or whatever, and that's kind of crazy of a rate for our industry. Absolutely. And so I think what happens is it's setting up, kind of a butterfly effect where, people are changing their budgets to be smaller because they think they can get somebody for that rate. And then it's kind of undercutting a lot of the other artists in town, and it's a butterfly effect, and I feel like we can all help each other. There's enough work for all of us.
It definitely is. And I feel like, too, with such an influx of new artists, the pool is bigger. And so you're right. Like, if you've got, 60% of the pool is at $150, and the other 40% that are getting slowly pulled back down because, like you said, the budgets are getting tighter because they think that that's the norm.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what happens is, I get calls even now from people that I've worked with before, and then they're going, yeah, all I have is, $200 for this, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I can't do it, and I don't know anybody that can for that rate. And if enough people stick to their guns like that, then somebody's going to go, oh, well, we need to raise our budget.
Exactly. Yes, I'm totally with you. Yeah. Because, I mean, I try to explain to people, too, sometimes, you think, people say, well, $200, that's a lot of money. Like, it's a lot of money, but when you think that you have to pay your own taxes, you have to pay your own insurance, you have to replenish your kit, you have to pay all your own marketing, that money, for every $100 you make, you're not really pocketing much of that at that point.
It's kind of ridiculous that people don't understand how much goes into like our kits and everything else too. It's something I get passionate about when I talk about, because I could really talk about it for an hour or two, but I feel like artists need to know how much they're worth and stick to it and not be afraid to lose the job, because if you're good enough, they'll come back with a budget that they can bring you in.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so career highlight, you got one?
Actually, I think my highlight that I would share with you would be, I think it was last week, actually, which is, I know. Yeah, so one of my clients I do a lot for is Dan Rather, who you know, and he is such a wonderful, wonderful man, and I love, love, love working with them. And we do these TV shows where we interview, different celebrities or whatever. And so the celebrity of the day was Vince Gill. And I'm not necessarily a huge Vince Gill fan or anything like that. And, he's married to Amy Grant. Now, I am, on a certain level, the kid inside of me is a major Amy Grant fan. My very first album that I bought with my allowance was Amy Grant. And that was also, like, my first big concert that I went to. But I had worked on her a month before, so it wasn't too big of a deal, that I was going to be at her house or whatever. But it was so funny because I didn't quite realize that they were still married for some reason. I think somebody had told me that for some reason they were divorced. I don't know why. Yeah. And so I showed up at the house and set up my kit, and I was like, wow, Vince Gill's house is amazing. And then I was like, it's so creepy that he has so many photos of him and Amy together, like, since they're divorced. And that's what I'm thinking, and I'm like, this is so weird. And then he walks in, and I'm like, oh, hey. And it was just like this weird moment of like, hey, I'm here at your house. And then Amy walks in, and I'm like, oh. And then it dawns on me they're still married, right? And so long story short, we end up doing, I work on Vince, and then, Amy was just kind of in the background the whole time. And then we did the interview and stuff. And then after that, we were supposed to move to the next location, and the whole crew left except for me, the producer, Dan Rather, and then it was Vince Gill, Amy Grant, and then Vince's manager.
Uh-huh.
And we were all there, and I thought we were about to leave, and then Amy comes in and says, well, lunch is served. And I'm like, lunch is served? So I walk in, and it's this dining room, and it's like these huge flower arrangements that are just like, I thought they were fake. They looked so beautiful, you know. And we're sitting at this really nice, you know, set table, and she starts serving me lunch, and I'm like, you don't need to serve me. You're Amy Grant, you know. And so it was just really funny because then I had this moment where we're sitting there and we're having amazing conversation, and it's just this really small group of people, and I don't even know why I was there.
Right.
And I'm just like, this is so bizarre. I'm having lunch, you know, on a weekday with Amy and Vince at their house, and they're serving me lunch. It was bizarre, and it was definitely a highlight, you know. I don't really get starstruck very often, and I wouldn't say I was starstruck, but it was one of those moments where it was like, this is really crazy, you know, and it was special.
For sure. Well, you know, the last 8 years brought you there.
Yeah.
You and I were talking earlier about your two babies, Sherlock and Watson, and you mentioned to me that you do some volunteer work at the rescue that you got one of them from, and so I really quick wanted to just ask what your week looks like. So, and your time off, that's what you do, but how often do you have that time off?
Well, I think it really depends on the week. You know, it's like sometimes we have weeks where it's every day is a shoot, or twice a day there's a shoot, and so I really have a hard time answering schedule questions because it's so dependent on what month it is or what week it is, but usually it's pretty slow in the winter, and so that's usually when I'll be able to help with other projects like that. But I mean, I would say when I'm not on a shoot, I'm definitely working here at the house on some level, whether it's, you know, doing marketing or updating my website or invoicing or, you know, all kinds of different things, or going online. Sometimes I go online to do education type of things and learn things, or even, you know, just researching different products or buying products for my kit. You know, it just really depends. But my husband travels full time, and that's good and bad, but it gives me a lot of time when he's gone to really focus on my job. And then that's why it's so awesome to have my two furry babies, because they keep me company when I come home, and they're definitely our kids, and we could not love them more. So.
You said that you go online and stuff to do some educational things. Is there anything you do to kind of keep up to date on technique or trends or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always reading magazines and trying to see what people are saying, you know, about different products, and trying to see, you know, how different artists did makeup on a model or all kinds of stuff like that. I'm also trying to stay, I mean, it would be impossible to stay current on all of the YouTube stuff that's out there because it's just a monster now. But I do find that some artists on there are really educational for me, and then even the ones that I think are ridiculous, sometimes I'll watch their videos to learn about different stuff. And actually, when I am about to purchase an item for my kit, even if well, not necessarily an item I've tried before, but an item that I've never tried before, but I'm about to spend money on, even if it's not super expensive, I will definitely go through Instagram and look up hashtag searches on that product, and then I'll go on YouTube and watch different reviews on it and see it in action before I buy it.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of online purchases. Yeah. So I think the internet is amazing when it comes to all of that, and I'm always learning things from watching different artists do different things online. Even if it's somebody that I think is not trained and they look like really bad makeup, they might do one thing that I'm like, oh, that's interesting because I wouldn't have done that, you know, and it kind of makes me think about that the next time I'm doing makeup on somebody, you know, a little twist that I might do, you know.
Yeah, that's clever. Okay, so last question. If there was a lipstick that was created, inspired by you, what color would it be, and what would you name it?
Well, I don't know if I'm going too rogue here in this answer, but um, so for me, it would be a clear gloss that would be high shine. And the reason why is because I love having just a really good, thick, high shine gloss in my kit at all times, because you can put that on top of any other lip gloss or lipstick or even a cream blush on your lips or anything and transform it to be something totally different, more vibrant, more, shiny, and it just is a transformer. And so the reason why I say that is because one of the photographers I work with a lot, that I love a lot, his name is David Bean, and he nicknamed me a while ago the Transformer, which I thought was incredibly dorky but really funny.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I specialize a lot of times, and I'm brought in for, it could be even somebody that's already established, but they need a rebranding. An example would be like Michael W. Smith. They brought me in and they wanted a rebranding, and we made him look very like George Clooney, Mad Men kind of thing. I gave him a new haircut and,
Yeah, great, by the
shaved eyebrows, and so it's like a whole thing. It's not just doing makeup. It's usually like a haircut and eyebrows, and sometimes with women like extensions and cutting extensions and all that kind of stuff. But I'm able to take somebody and then make them look totally different, which is why he named me the Transformer, which I don't want to be known as. But if I had a lip gloss, I would be the clear gloss because it's a transformer.
Nice, good stuff.
Yeah.
Christin, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this company. Yeah, that's awesome.
Woohoo! You can check out Christin's work at christincookzito.com, and of course follow her on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. And yeah, thanks so much.
And you can follow my dogs on Instagram too.
Oh, easy. Cool, perfect. All right, thanks so much.
All right, bye.